Good morning. Hello, everyone. I hope you're all doing really well. Welcome to another Gnomon Art Jam. My name is Josh Herman. I'm the CCO of Gnomon School of Visual Effects. If you've never joined a Gnomon Art Jam today, what we're going to be doing is just kind of sculpting some characters and just kind of hanging out and having some fun. I'm going to turn on the share screen here in just a second, and we're going to be playing some music. What I'm going to do for probably about the first 20 minutes to a half hour is just do some warm-ups. We've done this before in previous streams, and often what I'll do is, just kind of hang out and maybe sculpt something from a sphere or test things. Today, I want to actually just play in a different application entirely and just kind of get into the creative space before we get into sculpting anything. As always, if the music is too loud, if I sound bad, if I freeze, if I drop out, whatever, just type in the chat, let me know, and I'm happy to try to fix or adjust things for you. But otherwise, we will jump straight in. Today, what I'm actually doing is I'm playing around in a program called Wonder Draft. Wonder Draft is a map making program. I'm entertaining, doing some Dungeons and Dragons. If you watched any of this before, you know that I'm a big fan of that from the previous streams. And so this is an application where you can make maps. And so they have a bunch of cool stuff that you can do. And that's what I kind of want to explore today. So I've just kind of started on this right before the stream and have just been using some randomly generated things. And you'll see this is kind of generally the shape of what my map is looking like. But right now I'm kind of populating. I've decided I'm going to have these 4 major cities here, and they're all going to be leading to this other one. And as I fill this out, we're going to keep going. Now, again, this is only just something to get warmed up for today. So it's kind of a fun thing. I like jumping into other types of programs if possible every now and then. There's this little tree brush, which I can brush on, which is what I'm doing here. So I'm creating this kind of a forest, kind of adjust the density and the placement rate so that if I wanted to kind of taper off, I can kind of create that effect. But it's kind of fun. So I'm enjoying just kind of getting it. I love sculpting in ZBrush. I love making characters. It's kind of what I do as sometimes just as like a Zen hobby. But there's still something to jumping into something else every now and then, and make this like a really dense forest all through here. Maybe adjust some of the scale size so some of them are smaller. Just kind of break up what you're doing. As always, if you guys are working on your own personal work or whatever, this is going to be kind of a stylized-ish map. At 100%, it'll kind of look like this. So they have all these really cool, presets. There's obviously a massive tree, but it'll color it based on the location of what you're doing. Like this is like a wasteland, it'll color it that. And you can just kind of come in and make a little happy tree land over here, which is pretty great. I'm loving playing around with this. We're making some trees. Let me zoom out a little bit. It's about 50%. So what I'm thinking, again, we'll do this for about 20 or so minutes. When people pile in and just kind of get our brain in a creative space. But I'm thinking this is going to be like over here is going to be sort of like a densely forest area of the classic kind of desert area, kind of the classic ice, and then a wasteland over here. And then, of course, if the players would start, they would start in none of those areas because they would have to go explore them. So bring here with this nice dense forest. Exactly, the classic Skyrim world. I've been using this brush for here, which is kind of a fun, like almost like a valley brush, which is kind of cool. And this is, again, if you guys are just joining, this is called Wonder Draft. So this is just a program you can purchase. It's not terribly expensive. I think it's like 15, 20 bucks. It may not even be. Maybe it's a subscription model. But kind of fun for making maps. There's a bunch of these as well online and different things. So hopefully you guys are all doing good. And if you guys are interested in this, let me know. Otherwise, I'm happy to, we'll jump into other things soon. But I'm curious what kind of projects you guys are working on in the chat. If you guys are working on anything for fun, if you guys are working on finals, Gnomon's term starts next term or next week. So we are gearing up for a big up and coming term. Speaking of, if you guys have any questions or want to reach out to admissions, myself or somebody in the chat can connect you with, I think I can do it from here. Let me see. There we go. Can connect you with our admissions team. Just fill out one of those forms. If you have any questions about Gnomon, of course, I'm happy to answer those. Any questions about art, any questions about anything, happy to do that. So I think I want this area to a little further. I'm gonna crank up the density, and this will be like super dense through here. So like this is where you got to be really careful, when you're coming through this area. You get lost in the woods. Maybe put some trees around this little lake. Might even change up the type of tree over here. It feels very Bob Ross, this little thing, because it's like, make like a little happy little tree land over here. These are all colored, like some of them are colored, some of them are not. So you could do like, oh geez, this. Exactly. There's no like mistakes. We're just gonna take those mistakes and we're gonna use them. Or use them as inspiration. So kind of get to this tree, and maybe then we get into these pine tree forest over here. It's kind of sparse. Maybe that can be a wasteland. There's also mountains and stuff we're going to play with in a sec. So you can use mountain brushes like this to be like, oh, there's like a little mountain. Let's make a nice little happy mountain range over here. We'll use another one of these. I kind of like this one being like some bigger mountains. We're on a ZBrush project for an art contest. That's awesome. What's your project you're working on? I love art contests. They're one of my favorite things to do because they're such a good motivator, like for trying new things, for giving yourself a deadline. I'm a huge proponent of art contests. I think they're wonderful. I want to kind of do a mountain range over here too, but I like these dunes. They have. Speaking of dunes, anybody excited for Dune? Dune trailer. I am. Got a real crush on Timothée Chalamet right now too. I'm not afraid to admit it. Anybody saw The King? The King with Timothée Chalamet and Robert Pattinson. Big fan of that movie. Oh, just accidentally made a whole mountain range there. All right, there we go. We're back. Let's erase this one. We'll get these little mountains back. What is this? Dunes? No, let's do these. I like that there's these like classic little wispy clouds too. Still struggling to learn the mechanics of, are you struggling to learn the mechanics of ZBrush? Or just kind of sculpting in general? Or sculpting digitally? NPR filters to get the classic comic look. That's a good call. One of the things I found success with was using cavity shaders. And using a cavity shader, you can, I'll pull up my ArtStation real quick because there's one on there for you. Out that I have the file with me, but it's doing something like this. This is a ZBrush render test. And so I was using cavity shading as the primary element there, Comics Legend. And I was using that, and then I was using a couple different ones that kind of had different levels, and I would composite them on top of themselves. And then I would just render a flat shadow layer separately, and I would composite that on top as well, so that you could kind of get you could also change the direction of the light, so you can get more moody lighting or top lighting or backlighting or uplighting or whatever that is. And then all this stuff, like the red, was just painted in. But you can kind of see, like in here, you can see the remnants of the cavity shading. Full disclosure, I found that cavity shading or the comics style is a little difficult for more organic shapes, faces. I found it to be much more successful on things like this. Yes, King was awesome. I love that. It's so realistic, so brutal. It's like so brutally, like the fight scenes are just so, I don't know. It's hard to, I don't know what it is exactly. Maybe I do, but it's just hard to describe. Huge fan of it. Really dug it. Put some of these, like, this is the place that nobody explores over here. The dunes. Oh, I like that little brown dune as well. Arrakis. Desert planet. Make some of those in there. Because you can also come in with this and like paint, which is kind of cool. So go like land, paint, and then they have like a couple presets. You can choose any preset you want, but if you color it, it'll do that. Working, let's see, just digitally sculpting in general to create soft and continuous surfaces has been a nightmare. Good question, or not really a question, but that's something we can talk about later today once we jump into ZBrush in a little bit. This is not actually Incarnate. This is Wonderdraft, which I believe is probably a very similar program to Incarnate, which I've heard is like I said, is very similar. So this is Wonderdraft, and it's just kind of a map making program with a bunch of presets. And I'm trying to zoom out, but I zoomed in. I'm kind of exploring making this area kind of a foresty section, a desert section, and just kind of playing around with it. It's always nice to jump into other programs every now and then and just kind of see how things happen, right? I think sticking into one program forever, I wouldn't make this in ZBrush or anything like that to begin with, but it's kind of nice to do. Just fun to explore. Oh yeah, this is Wonderdraft. There's a ton of those. Incarnate is another very popular one. Some of these little smaller dunes, kind of like the idea of like there's like this, like this is like the classic Skyrim world that somebody mentioned earlier, but there's like the forest area, the winter area, the desert area, and then like the wasteland, right? And that makes it very simple for the players to know kind of what they're going to get into and how to prepare. But I want to find ways to break them up. So like maybe there's a really big mountain range, right? They have these really cool, interesting mountains that are kind of like this. I want to figure out where to put them. Like I thought about maybe making like like these volcano sections down here or something, like a wall beyond the wall, sort of an idea. Only one way in, where there's a secret path. Oh, they have to find. Oh, I'm sorry, my nerd is definitely showing today. I don't know why I'm saying sorry. It's always there. Oh, this is a cool one. I like this mountain range. Maybe I'll try that one. Let's just erase them. Oh yeah, this is totally like the Mordor Mountains. I wish I could make them a little bigger, but it seems like I can't. So in a little bit, we'll jump into sculpting in some ZBrush stuff. I like these mountains quite a bit, actually. We'll do this is like the classic trope, right? You come in through one area, and then you gotta like there's like everybody's seen this before. The valley. It's like there's a crater. Trying to create basic shapes. M helmet. When you say M exclamation helmet, is that something I should know? For some reason, my brain is going to Iron Man, like Mark 7, Mark 5, Mark 42. As soon as you start moving, stretching, there's some polishing. It's needed in the lows and highs, and the surface disappear. Hard surface sculpting. Are you trying to do like a hard surface helmet or like a sort of an organic style helmet? M1, like a Mark 1 Iron Man helmet, like the flat steel one. That's a difficult shape to sculpt in ZBrush. I mean, there's a lot of tools you can use in ZBrush to do that, but it's definitely not an easy one. I'm not going to sit here and lie to you. The key thing that I would say is focus on the overall proportions first, if possible. I know that's a no-brainer, but it's kind of the way that I would recommend you approaching it. So today we're just kind of warming up in Wonderdraft. I love just kind of warming up in these programs where there's so many little presets, and it's just kind of a fun thing to do. One thing I might do, I don't love the colors that they give you in this. I do like how it pre-colors everything, but I was considering coming in and just like erasing all of the paint. This is the water. I want the land. And just doing it in Photoshop later. Maybe that would be I can get rid of all this and do it myself. That's an option. We'll just try to do that real quick. What if I fill this? Aha, that's what it looks like. So I could come in later and just, okay, I want to zoom out. Fill this later compared to like this. Even though this kind of creates a nice effect, but filling it with this. They can also let me they have all these other themes, which are kind of cool. I'll zoom in a little bit. You could do like a paper theme, which I kind of like. Now these are the wrong color, which is kind of annoying, but this gives a very like classic map. So room to play. I have a bunch of other ones, black and white, right? Some more colored ones. Paper was what we just looked at. I've been using Worn. Adventure's a fun one. This is Wonderdraft, is the program we're using today. But there's tons of these. So if you're interested in this, you can like mess with the saturation of things, adjust the values of things. It's a fun program. Yeah, it has like, I automatically generated the landmass. You can paint in the landmass if you like as well, but it has this feature where you can kind of just click it and it'll create a general landmass for you, and then you can kind of go from there. So for now, we're just kind of getting some of these mountains and stuff dialed in. Get the rest of these. Maybe there's like a massive one that doesn't really fit in there. Use that like through here maybe. For inspiration on maps, do I get inspiration from Tolkien's books? Yeah, I think Tolkien's a massive inspiration. I think probably for almost everybody in the, especially in the entertainment scene. There's so many people that have been inspired by Tolkien in so many ways, right? His maps, any map, like Game of Thrones maps are another big one that I dug. I want to create like a mountain range up here. See, I had these other now that I look at these mountains that they had, this preset, and these ones, I don't like these ones at all, so I'm going to erase them. We're going to make some new ones with what we had here. This is Wonder Draft. We're playing around in Wonder Draft for a little while. Adjusting the size of these little tiny mountains. So what I was thinking we could do is, after I get these really quickly blocked out, because we'll only spend about 10 more minutes. In the previous streams, we've gone into sculpting a character based off of a random prompt. It's not a custom Tolkien preset, no. It just kind of has that vibe. I was thinking we could make a character for one of these locations. We had done this before a little bit and had like, let's make a really dense mountain range. Let's see what this happens. But we could name these, and they have some fun naming tools. So if you're into this kind of stuff, as far as like making maps or world creation or blue sky, like it's kind of a fun way to do this. This preset is called the Worn preset, by the way, if you're ever playing around with this thing. It's in here. Put a couple of rocky. Kind of going into the edge of the water. What you can do here, which is kind of cool, is you just like go to land, and you can make the land go up, or you can make the land go down. So I just come over here and make the land go up a little bit around this. It has the same brush hotkeys, so just use the brackets. And there we go. Now that looks like it's nice and integrated. Studying a class at Gnomon next week. Awesome. What class are you taking? I want to kind of put this like big thing in there somewhere. It's just such a different style. Feels like it needs to almost be like a, maybe it's further away from everything. Or maybe we just use it as like an icon, right? It's like, this is different depending on the stroke. It has like these little trees sticking off. That's the one I wanted. I think you can grab individual ones too. Yeah. So I'll take like this one I want. I'm going to erase all these. Oh, that wasn't the one I wanted. Change the color. Ooh. You're doing the storyboarding class. That's great. Awesome. Yeah, I'm sure it'll be good. I've heard a lot of really good things about storyboarding. So we got a question or a comment that says, I don't know anyone else who works in or studies in concept art, and you're having trouble finding active Discord servers to meet people, especially in lockdown. Discord servers. I'm not super informed about all the different types of Discord servers, but there's got to be some or something out there, I would imagine. I don't know, though. If anybody knows of a Discord server, maybe we can help our friend out here. If anyone knows any Discord servers they would love to join, just finished characters design and about to start gesture. Awesome. This thing in it's not really working. All right, let's make some names. We've kind of got a nice starting point for like general locations. And as I say that, I'm like, oh, I want to put some more mountains over here. Mountain, mountain, mountain. You can color them later. I'll do something like this. Kind of get a little more in there. Maybe we'll make this like like I said, we'll get into this in a sec, but I want to quickly block out some ideas. So like this could be like more of a plains placement density of this. Grant Abbott has a huge Discord. That's good to know. Let's do like these little pine trees. This is like a very Tolkien one. A very specific type of brush pen. I do actually enjoy doing, I think, the trees the most. It's fun. There we go. Find like a dense type of forest over here. I did already use these, which are kind of like a pine tree. So maybe I should continue using this. It's interesting if you start researching or looking at, the world. Typically, you'll see a lot of green on the side of mountains because they'll get a lot of water. As they fall off, can kind of naturally inform you as to what they would be doing. Wonder Draft, yes, we are using Wonder Draft today. Well, not the whole day, we're just warming up in it. We'll switch into ZBrush here if that's what people are interested in. I'm happy to hang out in Wonder Draft, which is what we're playing around in. It's kind of a fun program. Here we go, get some smaller ones out there as it kind of trickles around to these little trees. I want to get some I've used these trees over here, which was kind of fun. To me, feels like it's like a special location. How much do you stray away from nature laws when drawing a map? To be honest, I do inform myself based on it, but I don't. I kind of just do whatever feels right. Palm tree one. Oh, there's cactus. Doesn't really look like a cactus, does it? Cacti in there. Let's see. Is Gnomon opposed to students creating its own Discord or Facebook group, or is it encouraged to use an official one from the class instructor? That's up to you guys. I mean, I think it's, for me, it's something that it's whatever works for you, right? So if that's you creating a Discord, you and your class, you and your friends, that's totally fine in my opinion. I mean, if the teacher has one, I think there's no reason to not use that one as well. You know, I think that's kind of would be smart, right, to be able to engage with them in that way. But if you're wanting to create your own, I don't think that there's really anything that should stop you from doing that. Oops. All right. What was I going to do? Oh, that's right. I was going to do a couple smaller mountain ranges as it kind of trickles off. Maybe in some more of these, like these types. How does this one look like when it's big? Yeah, this is more like a hill. There's a lot of Blender groups, that's for sure. I've definitely seen a lot of Blender groups out there. Blender has a really incredible community, though, so I think that's cool that it has such like a built-in, you know, network, and it's a great place to learn. I see all these little things popping, like all the alpha sorting. It's kind of interesting. All right, so let's make some locations, and then we'll jump into ZBrush here after this. Kind of enjoying placing these little mountains and making this little world. All right, we're going to save this. It usually take a second. So regions, you can use this. This will like create like actual regions, like if you want to like map out part of the world. But labels is something you can do, and you can just click. Like we'll name this town. I already have a name for this town, and this town is called Crossroads. Crossroads. So what you can do. Should be able to select it. Yes. We'll zoom in. We'll enhance. And I believe if I click this, yeah, you can rotate it, move it, spin it, right? Some default stuff, but they also have some like preset names. So there's bodies of waters and there's settlements, which is kind of cool. You can just delete it, deletes it, so we can make another one here. It'll automatically do a generator too, so you can click this and this little Mario question mark to give you random names, which is kind of cool. And that'll also depend on if you choose city, town, or water. So town is smaller, city, right? So it'll change the size of that. Water changes entirely, and then if you hit this, it also changes that. But you can choose the fonts, which are kind of cool. So there's like, we'll go to city, and we'll choose like settlements. Figure out what we want our font to look like. I kind of want it just to be black or white. We'll make it a little bigger for now. We'll just put it at 60 so we can all see it, maybe 80 so we can all see it. And then we'll say, do we want it to be, this is Aladdin, this is Barlow, Bilbo. That's obviously very Tolkien-esque, which could have like no outline. You can remove the outline and just say like we want it to be black, right? But to be able to preview it, I kind of want to see what their options are. Sincel, East Sea. Ooh, that's like a very handwritten one. That definitely looks like somebody hand wrote this one. I like that. It's kind of cool. It's like if you're doing like a paper map, it's like a child wrote that map. I dig that. Frederick the Great. Frederica. That's cool. That's kind of cool too. Another one that would look really good on like a paper preset. Because again, there's all these. Okay, get out of here. There's all these presets, themes. So if I go to like paper, which all this color is what going to compete with, but that's kind of a nice look to it. Overall, that actually looks not great, but up close, it looks pretty good. Does Gnomon offer a student discount on software like ZBrush? I don't believe so. But there is a free version of ZBrush that you can play with called ZBrush Core Mini that I would recommend if you've never played with it. Definitely check that out. So let's see what else we got here. We'll turn that outline back on. Gentium book. Okay, very classic. Got it. Lancelot. So they have some nice fun fonts that are very, the thing that, this is obviously not a vast program with a ton of stuff. This is WonderDraft, what we're playing in. It doesn't have like a ton of options for you, but it does give you like a very specific group. So I kind of want to just use this Bilbo one. I know that this was going to be Crossroads is what this place is called. So here, you can do the yield curvature. So maybe a little bit of curvature there. And I might just make this a little smaller for this one. What's the size of the bigger cities going to be? And I got to figure out what that's going to be. And I'm going to put that like here maybe. See how legible it really is. Could probably use some work, but we'll run with it for now. Like what I think is awesome is that you can come over here, right? I'm gonna go back to my theme. I'm on the wrong theme. There we go. So I'll come over here. We'll just delete this. We'll make a new one. We'll change the settlement body of water, and we'll change this to water, and then we'll just click one. It's like this is the autumn expanse or the permafrost expanse. There's a lot of expanses. The mossy pond, secret abyss, the yellow gulf, strange ocean, eerie basin, the lesser bayou. Oh, I like that name. I don't think it should go here, but maybe down here. Let's make another one. Feared waters. Oh yeah, that's like here for sure. The Methyl Ocean. Sure. This can be the Methyl Ocean. I don't know if I like that actually. Tragic Lake. Oh yeah. Every good story has a tragic lake. Get over here, thing. Tragic Lake should definitely be up here. It's kind of a fun thing to just make it nice and easy. Really good for world building. The narrow lagoon, right? Because there's this narrow little pass here. Maybe these should be swapped. Well, I guess a lake is a contained body of water. So that can go there. Dirty Gulf, Bottomless Whirlpool, Dead Depths. Boom. Oh, I just no. Well, whatever. The Wizard Void, the Peaceful Cove. You know, there's all kinds of fun stuff in here. And then we'll pick, let's do a name. Let's do a city. I think we had done it. City. We had doing Bilbo with no outline. I think it was a 60 with black. And we'll settlements. Snowbury. Oh, it's like it new. Lichenhorn. Oh, I like that. Let's keep that one. All right. So you could do this on the whole thing, obviously, which is kind of a fun thing to create presets. So I could have saved or made a preset, I guess. Just say like my towns, big cities. Just what this is. We'll figure this out eventually. All right, we have been hanging out in this for a little longer than I expected, but I've been having some fun. So we're going to end save. We've got a little bit of our world that we're creating here. I should make one big one over here, though, right? I wish I could have like evil place. What did it choose for this? 60. Manahorn. That's almost like the Matterhorn. Ishtaportal. I think that says Vulcan Wind or Ulcan Wind. Ulcan Wind. We'll pick one of these at random. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Nope. 1, 2, 3, 4. Shiver Drum. Some of these are obviously very obviously taken from Tolkien or other things like that. The Bantamshire. That feels like this area. This is Wonder Draft, which is what we've been playing around in. All right, so now that we've kind of been exploring some places and having fun in Wonder Draft, we actually are going to jump into ZBrush and start sculpting. So what we're going to do is I'm going to do what I did last time to kind of make a random character, because I like having a random prompt. We could obviously say, you know, we're going to make a character from Bantamshire or something like that, but it makes it a little easier for me to do it from a random thing here. So we're going to build a character. I'm going to hide this. I'm going to show this. This is D&D Beyond if you've never seen this before. It is a little hard to see, so I'm going to actually hide myself for you all, so hopefully it'll make me just a tad bit larger, or it a tad bit larger. And we're going to also open up another tab, and we're going to do a dice roller. Now, if you guys, not dice, tribe roller, dice roller. They have them. Google has one built in, which is cool. If you've never done this before, I'd recommend doing this, because it is kind of a fun thing to give yourself a very random prompt, right? To say like, you know, this is the type of character I'm making. So I turn all this stuff off. I just say like blank. And we're going to start with our abilities. If you haven't seen us do this the past couple weeks, we're going to roll 4d6, remove the lowest number. We're going to put that in the left one. We're going to do that 6 times. So we're going to just go left to right. So we have a 12, we have a 10. Ooh, it's very informative. We have a 7 on Constitution. but our intelligence is a 16. Just good. Our wisdom is 15. So this is a sickly smart person. 10 is the average, in case you weren't aware. So we're going to go into race. If I go to this and I choose the player's handbook, there is 10 races here. So what I do is I remove all these and I just roll a d10. 7, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Halfling. Okay. Okay. We haven't done a halfling before. I'm going to roll a d4. Odd is going to be the top. Even, well, I guess even would evens, odds than even. So it would have been this one. There we go. And I would say we've done this before. There's only one class that benefits from intelligence. I think we could do a cleric or something like that. There's 12 classes if you remove the artificer and the blood hunter. So if I roll this, 12 is what I would get, which is a wizard. So we are making a halfling wizard today. You can make all this stuff if you want. I always like doing it because it's relatively quick. Going to go to description. There are 54 of these backgrounds. What I do is there's another dice roller right here from Wizards of the Coast. I roll a D100, 77. I try to get something under 54, so 21 is what I got on that. And I just count my way down. 1, 2, 3. 10 is cloistered. 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21. Folk hero. So this is a folk hero wizard halfling. I don't need, we'll just say like they like to alchemist. Equipment, this is just simple stuff if you want to pick one. I like picking some of these because it gives us a nice starting point for what our equipment will actually be. So I'm going to choose wizard quarterstaff. There is 4 real options here, so we'll just pick the 4th one. So this person uses a staff, scholar, sure, and sure. So we have all this, which is already now selected for us, and we can go into our character sheet. Our character at level 1 has 4 hit points because he has a -2 modifier to Constitution, which is pretty garbage. This character will die very quickly if it were to be played, which I think is actually hilarious, though. So we are making a character. Oh, and we need to go in here and edit our character and go back to that dice roller. Roll a d6. 3. So I go into my race or name now, and I can randomize and hit 3 times. 1, 2, 3. Yobrix Swift Whistle is our character's name. So let's go ahead and jump into ZBrush now. And let's make Yobrix Swift Whistle the halfling wizard. So I'm going to load up my base mesh that I've been using the past couple times. So I'm going to load up my, where is it? There it is. This character here. In case you guys hadn't seen before in 2 of the previous streams, what we had been doing was making 2 other characters. We made this character, which was our half-orc rogue. I believe he was a noble, what I recall. And then we also made this character here, which was our halfling swashbuckler bard last week. Willem Dafoe. A lot of Willem coming in there. This is his Shawm holster. So today we're going to make a halfling, which we need to keep in scale, right? Halflings are only about yay tall, so that's something we're going to do, or at least keep in mind. What I'm going to do to begin is I'm just going to start stretching and making some head shapes here. Now, halflings have very different proportions, so the first thing I always do is I get some groups set up, polygroups, so that it's easier for me to kind of define the areas that I'm going to be working on. And then very likely we will actually end up using a head, base head, to define to start with that. All right, so now we have this. What we can do is we'll just use the old action lines here, and we're just going to squash this person in half. That's the easiest way to get that done. And I'm going to go straight from the middle, and we're going to squash them a little bit. I don't want to go crazy, right? But I can mask these elements off and soften some of that. Kind of get this proportion feel a little more halfling or hobbit. If you don't know what a halfling is, it's essentially a hobbit. Now this is again, why do I know it's, some people aren't role play fans or have never done that, so it's kind of a little confusing to them. The reason I like using that is because it gives us very key pieces of information for our prompt. Knowing that this is an intelligent person who's actually somewhat strong, but somewhat fast, somewhat perceptive, very weak. Constitutionally means something in there is a really key defining trait. Some other things we can do is we can go into our description. So under descriptions, I'll edit this character. So we can do, because we did this on the previous ones. I want to edit that in a separate window. Okay. We'll just do the dice roller again. Because we can also get some more information for this character by description, suggested things here. So we can roll these and they'll give us random things. We need to roll a d8 twice, an 8 and a 4. So this character has a strong sense of fair play and always tries to find the most equitable solution to arguments. I like that. But they also get bored easily. When am I going to get on with my destiny? I dig that. And then these all are 6s, so I just roll 4d6 at the top. And whatever one's on the left, I start here. So a 2, and a 3, which when we collapse this, you'll see them all here. So their ideals is fairness. No one should get preferential treatment. Their bond is that they worked the land. They loved the land. They will protect the land. And flaws is the people who knew me when I was young know a shameful secret and they can never go home again. So this person has like a little bit of a depth to them given what we kind of know about them. And so since we have that, I'll pull it off to the side. I kind of keep this as sort of part of my reference, and we can use that as character inspiration. I get the head size to be a little more accurate. Assuming a character's yay tall here, right? That's obviously way too big, but it does inform some of our proportions. Halflings tend to be kind of have bigger heads. Not too big like I had it. Not so stocky that they feel like a dwarf, which is something I want to fix. If this person's supposed to be kind of sickly. So that's going to be a challenge, is to break some of that. At this point, I do like to start getting into a pose. What I'm going to do, I'm going to bring those shoulders in even a little bit further. So how do we, I don't think that they should be leading with their chest, which is kind of, if you look at these other two characters we did, like leading with their chest, leading with their hips, right? And then same over here. Hips forward, hands on hips for the pose. And these two. This character should absolutely not be doing that, right? They should not be doing kind of the same pose. And some of that's built in to the base mesh, but we're going to adjust that. So we're going to push all this back, hide this, mask that. So maybe this is kind of like a more of a sunken. Now, just because they have a low constitution doesn't necessarily, they have strength, so it's maybe there's something different about this person. Yobrix is their name, making them weaker. Trying to make sure my perspective is on. These arms down. I don't love sculpting in T poses if I don't have to. Even A poses. Trying to get as much of the character out of the base mesh as I possibly can. They are. The role-playing games really can be a great inspiration for art. You see so many people doing fan art of their own characters or their parties, or at Gnomon there was a Star Wars tabletop game that was being played, and one of the players was drawing the key moments from the game, every game, like what was the most, memorable section of the game, and they would draw that every week. I was running a game for a while, and I was actually writing, so I would write like a chapter of a book, essentially, of each session. That's what happened, as like a recap, which was fun. It's just a great inspiration for all types of art. It really, really is. So we can do what I like to do, which is when I subdivide this character, I don't like to smooth. So I'm going to turn that off. I'm going to hit this twice, and I'll smooth again. What this does is it gives me a very blocky person, but it's also bumped up the poly count significantly. And so what I can do now is just start working from that, and it makes it a little simpler. And what I like to do here is just kind of get some of those initial planes of the face, planes of the body in, use it as a tool to begin the foundation stuff for later. just getting these anatomical landmarks in. Not a very muscular character, whereas the previous two were. So I'm not attempting to make them muscular, but I'm starting kind of with the muscles. And so sometimes one of the things I find that can be a little bit of a challenge when you're making a character is, you want to start with anatomy, but they're not a muscular character. So how do you start with just muscles and bone, and not make them a bodybuilder, right? Especially when the majority of the references that you're going to find are going to be bodybuilder reference, anatomy reference, which is typically like drawing models who are fit, right? So it's kind of a challenge. This is a base mesh that is from an old modeling program called Silo. Silo is a modeling program probably from about 15 years ago, which doesn't really get used anymore. And so one of their, just like in Maya, or 3ds Max, you have like a cube, and you have a sphere and a cylinder and all that, and a teapot. They had a base man like this, which is kind of this look. I would imagine, I haven't searched for it in a long time, but I would imagine that you could find it online by just searching like Silo modeling program base mesh. Maybe you'll get lucky. I haven't tried though. I got it about 10, 12 years ago, and I just kind of found it, and it's one that I really like using. You can use any base mesh though, anything that works for you. It's also not a terribly complex base mesh for modeling, so if you want to make one, it's a pretty easy one to make, or to sculpt and then retop. Right? We'll get some of this stuff in, and we're not going to go crazy on the anatomy on this guy. Make Human is another defunct program for base meshes. I think I'm probably just going to focus on this bust today. I'm going to give like a little bigger ears. Go ahead and pull out a nose. I really like actually sculpting. The most of you guys have seen this before from these planes of the head. This is my favorite thing to sculpt from. But I'm going to try it on this today. Saying you start from a sphere for almost everything. You don't think that's the most efficient way. Sometimes just started ZBrush about a month ago. It can, and yes and no. I would say it's probably not the most efficient thing. The challenge of starting with a sphere every time is you have to create the base forms every single time from the very beginning, right? This is a crafted sphere is what I would call this. Like, this is just an elegant sphere, at least the head. The body is obviously not. If you start from something like one of these, you go into light box, which is what I think it's called, head planes. One of these are really good for starting like this. I'm going to save because why not? These are really good to be starting from. Base meshes are always really nice to start from, especially if you want to explore something in a form that you already know that you want to get to. What I mean by that is, you know that you are going to sculpt a human. You are going to sculpt a humanoid alien with 2 arms and 2 legs, right? Yes, you can obviously sculpt from scratch, and there's genuinely nothing wrong with that. The challenge is the more time that you spend building up the form, just the base form, meaning I'm making the arm, I'm making the legs, you are not sculpting the actual design that you want, right? That's kind of part of the problem there. When you sculpt with a base mesh, the opposite happens is that you have all this stuff there, but sometimes you get locked too much into the proportions there that are there, right? You're not given the complete freedom that a sphere has. So I think when you're beginning, try both methods. There are other base meshes inside of here, not just in this one, but there's also the demo soldier, which is one that I don't love. The demo soldier. There should be. The mannequin is okay. Demo projects. Let's see what we got in here. Super average male is okay. That seems to be the main ones that are in here now. So check those out. Let's see if there's anything up. Tools. Sometimes in Z tools. Yeah, Z tool. There's demo soldier. There's another super average man here. There's a Nick Z human guy is pretty decent. So play around with those for your base meshes that are already inside ZBrush. But with sculpting with a base mesh, you don't have complete freedom, right? You don't have the ability to. I'm going to add a subdivision level here. You don't have the ability to just start sculpting on something, but you also can do any proportion, any shape, and often I find that some of my best sculpts are done when I'm using a sphere, and that's because I'm often not caring about what we're making. I'm not caring about how I'm making it, but starting maybe in one section, finding something that works for me, and going from there. What I'm gonna do is I'm gonna start making some little eyeballs first. I'm just gonna sculpt the eyeballs into this form. A little formless on the side. I'm looking at, even though I can see this side, I'm actually looking at this side when I sculpt, and that's because I want to see the silhouette, right? So when I say it's formless, what I'm saying is from a profile or from a perspective view, there's not a lot of variation in the form. So that's something I might want to look at doing. Nice thing that goes with animating basic stuff like walks or runs or loops. Yeah, exactly. Having something to build on is nice. It's always going to be almost always going to be a faster way to make something. I don't know if there's really much debate about that, right? Like starting with a pre-made human and sculpting a costume on them is easier and simpler and faster than sculpting it from scratch with nothing. Same with painting, right? Starting with a photo and painting on top or collage is likely going to be easier than painting that same thing from just paint strokes. So just kind of think of it that way. It's starting from ZBrush is easy to equate to traditional sculpting, right? So think of it like if you're starting from a sphere every time, you're just starting from a block of clay. If you're starting from a base mesh, you're starting from an armature with proportions, play on it. But you can adjust, but yes, it's something that's already got a pretty heavy foundation within it. Just kind of think of it that way. It's not bad, it's not worse. It's efficient is different, but it's not always about efficiency, especially if you're just starting. Yeah. I don't want them to have like crazy, especially because I made this dude who has like incredibly defined cheekbones, right? This is this dude. I kind of want somebody who's a little rounder and a little softer in the party. You guys know I'm a sucker for a mustache, so every time I do this accidental large stroke, I'm like, there are no happy accidents. We use what we're given. I look like Mario, Luigi. Did this. I kind of like this little lip shape though, so I'm going to try to play with that. So I like using the Damien standard brush just kind of as like a carving brush. Sometimes you can use it like what I'm doing right now. So this was the base form. And so just carving in like maybe what the ankle could be like, seeing what it could be like, maybe adjusting some shapes afterwards to say, is this the shape that I want? Yes or no? I don't know. Okay, we'll continue. Like I said, I'm kind of enjoying doing something with some rounder shapes because a lot of the times things that we do are not like that. At this point, sometimes when I start to get a face, I like to see a little bit more of the body. Does that just feel like a kid? Does it feel like a halfling? Let's get some of these taller dudes in here for scale. This guy would be like yay big. Sculpting kind of from a distance because I want to, I was saying earlier, respect kind of try to get these features in. Need some eyebrows. Still kind of like that, but I'm going to pass on it for now. I've mostly made this feel like a child, which is not intentional. In some ways it is, right? I said I wanted rounder shapes. Do I use a Cintiq? It seems like all pros use one. No, I don't. I use a tablet. I think you'd actually be shocked at the amount of people that use tablets because it's a lot. There is a heavy amount of users that do use Cintiqs, but there's a lot of people. A lot of people that I know will use tablets. Here, so maybe we'll find this a little bit. A little character. I don't really like the eyes that I've sculpted here, so I'm going to try to get a little more attention in here. So the mesh that I actually have doesn't have enough resolution to really push some of these shapes without going a little higher. So what I do is I just start sculpting with the Damien standard brush in reverse to try to really push this as much as I possibly can. With both of the other ones that you see in the background, I actually ended up sculpting both of those using the planes of the head and then using certain elements of that to be dynameshed. So like the head was dynameshed and the rest of it was separate. That's what I'm doing a little differently, and I'm sculpting just the whole thing in one mesh, which is all one single thing. It comes with its own challenges, but it also has its own advantages. I think I want these eyes to be a little bigger though. Trying to make a mask that I can kind of fade in. Now when I scale them, at first it's going to do that, which is exactly what we don't want. So what's going to happen is what you see is it starts pushing them outward. If you turn on this L sim, which is local symmetry right here, it'll move from the center of the pivot. Now, obviously, that's going to create our own issues. You can see on the right here, it's creating some problems. The center actual line is getting blurred. So I'm going to try to go a little bit here, and then it means that the eyes are going to have to kind of go outward a little. And knowing that the character is going to be yay tall, the eyes being bigger will help quite a bit. So they read better. Of course, now I need to blend all that in, meaning I changed a pretty key feature of the face. I need to make it work. Just gonna add a little bit of texture to the whole thing. I said this before, but one of the things I like doing with the texture, or why I just kind of, I'm going over the whole surface just kind of like this, but just very soft with the clay buildup brush. The reason I like doing that is because it breaks up just some of the smoothness. There was a question earlier in the stream, or a comment earlier in the stream about, feeling like, always struggling to make everything feel smooth. And I think that they were sculpting a helmet, Mark 1, from what I recall. But one of the things that I struggle with, or did, especially, this is kind of why I do this now, is to help myself. But when I was starting sculpting, I really struggled a lot with making sure that every form, or feeling like every form I sculpted had to be perfect. It doesn't have to be. So what I do now is I kind of will, once I get to a point where I'm feeling not stuck, but I'm feeling like I'm not entirely sure of where to go, I'll take this, and sometimes I'll just turn down the intensity too, like I just did, and just kind of cover the whole surface, because it gives it this nice little texture and this pattern, and it makes it, in some ways it makes it feel more like clay, in some ways it makes it feel just more traditional, but it definitely breaks up the monotony of the overall surface being perfectly CG and perfectly, all these highlights that you see, especially like in the areas where I haven't sculpted like this, are so perfect and machined that it's impossible for that to be hand sculpted, right? It's not impossible, but it'd be very difficult. And so what this does, and adding this little bit of texture that I like to put in here, does is it gives it a little bit of a pattern that breaks away from that. And it also gives you, as an artist, we were joking about it earlier when I was messing around in Wonder Draft, but happy little accidents, happy little mistakes, like searching for a happy accident, it gives you lots more information to do that with. Where can I put a wrinkle? Where can I create a form? Where can I, what can I emphasize to make this more interesting? So now that I've kind of done that, you'll see what I have is there's a lot of these little marks, like all these little marks all over the face, and now I can use those. So I can say, like, maybe there is maybe there's some sort of a design on them, right? I can use this line, and I can, it's a design, or is it a, if we're doing robotics and hard surface stuff, right? This could be a form. Right, and then I can start using others within here to start defining that as well. Went a little heavy on the administration, but I kind of like some of the shapes that it's been creating. One of the downsides of using the whole mesh, right, is what I've been doing before, is I had been sculpting eyes, right? It's gonna be a little harder for me to do now. I can sculpt it in, but I'll have to really up the level of the subdivisions to be able to get that, or I'm gonna have to split the head off entirely, which is kind of what I already did here. Still not loving this pose. I almost kind of liked the idea of this little removing the idea of being a halfling, but sort of that little Astro Boy type. I'm kind of getting into this. Just going to take a little diversion and see what we can make. Yeah, I'm kind of wanting to take this just in a different direction. I started to like where this was going. It wasn't necessarily fitting. And the prompt is just kind of a way for you to get in the zone. I want to see where this goes. So this is most certainly going to diverge from what we started off as. That's okay. I also realized I misread the question earlier. It says, why don't you use this Cintiq? The reason I don't use this Cintiq is because the screen gets really hot. The screen gets really hot, and that kind of is not my favorite thing to use, or because of that. And then the body position that you have to be in for a lengthy time is just a little less comfortable for me. What I'm thinking is I want to kind of just bring in some more gestural forms. I don't mind actually this like sort of shape. I don't like this, right? I don't know if I love this, but I'm kind of okay. Maybe bringing in posture that's not super, thin. Something about it that I was liking. I want to do something that's more like open to something like a wall rather than like a freestanding character. Okay, so let's fix some of this. Let's make this, let's get into the pose a little bit. I kind of like the idea of this being something like this. This will help a ton. Sculpture. lot of those forms in the face though from this angle. Anybody's got any questions while I'm working on stuff or what I'm doing? I'm kind of just free forming at this point and seeing what comes out of this, because I was kind of enjoying the direction that this was going and wanted to try to pull it into something a little different. So we're going to see where it goes. No reference. I mean, I probably should, right at this point, or around this point, I should figure out. I mean, to be honest, I'm still really trying to figure out exactly what I'm doing. There's elements of that I'm liking, and so I'm trying to take those and keep them, right? I'm trying to say like, okay, what is that I like? I keep that if possible. What is it? And really trying to figure out what it is. Is it the shape of the head? Is it the body? Is it the pose? Is it the gesture? What is it that I'm liking? What I am liking is kind of the large forms in the face that are creating some gesture. I'm a big fan of lines that will, like, I'll do it like right now. This is actually probably what I should have done is create a bold mark, right? So I have a line like this with something that I'm seeing in the face. If I want to do that, I want to replicate that through the body. And so that's some of what you're seeing here. So I'm going to come in with like a little more intensity on this brush. Kind of getting into like sort of a fairy land look. And in this way, it's actually different than the ways that I was working before. I'm working off of one location. This is kind of counter to a lot of the streams that I've done before, where I would start in, the base mesh, get the pose, and work my way up. That's kind of for the past two how we've been doing it. This is actually almost exactly the opposite of I found something I liked here, and I've been starting to work on that. And then after working on that, I'm working my way outwards from that. And so all those little, adjustments I was making earlier, some of them I'm going to keep, most of them I probably won't. I guess in case anybody's joining now and is kind of curious what we've been doing, we started with a different character, which is actually this character, and so we were exploring this. And this was based off of one of the random generators we've done before, and then now I kind of pushed it into a little bit of a different direction and kind of been exploring just somewhere, I guess, a more feminine version, but also a just kind of an entirely different character here. So was starting to dig some of the stuff that was happening and just taking it another direction. Before that, we had also been playing around in Wonder Draft, which is a map making program, which is pretty fun. If you're interested in playing around with that, it's a cool program that lets you make this stuff relatively easily. So I definitely recommend checking it out. Now what I want to do is actually want to start adding some elements to this that break the silhouette. So if I turn off painting on this and I hit V, you'll see that the silhouette is pretty bare at this point, right? It's just standard humanoid. And so I want to break that up by adding either some design elements or something that's gonna bring a little bit more life to it. So I can either start pulling pieces off, right? And then we can do it as part of the costume. Like I kind of like what that was doing. That was just to create that, right? So before, after, maybe we use that as a starting point. And mask this, and I already have some lines drawn out, so what I can use, so I can continue to use those lines maybe, and we'll say that that's like the starting point for maybe where some of this is going to go. And at this point, we can also look into color as an option as well. Using some of just the little things that I've been doing, I'm going to pull some of these shapes out. So like, we're going to sculpt this roughly, but we'll get a pretty good idea. Kind of, we had talked about almost getting into like a little bit of a plant, looking like a fairy, and to me that kind of is getting into like plant. We're using plants as part of their costume. These are, this could be like a little headdress. Made from something plant-like, right? This is the main area I've really focused on. So some of this is starting to work for me. There's still some really odd posture things that I need to fix, especially from the profile, which is looking very strange. There's also an element of it is like right now I've kind of sort of gone for this very like rhythmic, like, you know, this kind of a shape where it's like it's doing this back and forth. And basically by just doing this, you can even just do what I'm doing now, in and out and in and out, right? You can start to get some designs and you just kind of keep elements of that, right? And you say, you know, there's your character, right? It's a pretty straightforward idea. There's something about this angle that is creating sort of a slightly off element to it, right? And I think that that's what could be really interesting is that little bit of difference, right? That little bit of like something just slightly being different, not working 100%. Maybe that's what I want to bring in is like this sort of jaggedness to it occasionally. And so that's what I'm trying to figure out how I can bring it in. The question that says from Twitch is saying, do you usually sculpt it close right on the model rather than on a separate layer? No, it really depends. For something like I'm doing today where I'm just exploring, yeah, I'll just sculpt them right on the model. If I'm doing it for, you know, a game or something different, I would want to make it as a separate piece, and that's kind of what we've done on these characters here. So previous characters, you know, these guys have like all these are little different pieces that can go on and can come off. So this is a head is a separate piece, and the body is a separate piece, and the belt and the pants and everything individually are separate pieces. With this one, right? So you have the head, you have the body, pants, you have every bit, the hair, the hat, the vest, the sleeves, the undershirt. All this stuff is on separate layers. For this, because I'm just exploring, what I'm doing now is I'm going to push it until it really breaks. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to save before I push everything around. I'm hitting a point where it's like, it's some of it's working, some of it's not working. So I'm going to try to break it, but push it till it breaks. You can always use the undo slider to kind of say like, where was I at? You can load up the previous tool and do the same kind of thing. What is the key factor? I got a question from YouTube. What is the key factor in designing a realistic 3D character sculpt? That's a really hard question. I don't think there's one specific key factor, but I think it's really just the same as if you were designing in 2D. Having a understanding of the design of what you're wanting to make, having an ideal of form and design and rhythm and balance, and it just kind of comes down to saying, how do you make a good design first, right? Whether it's 3D or 2D, it doesn't really matter. It's about finding something that works just in general. So understanding appealing shapes, being able to find things that are that are cool, that are appealing, that you like, that other people seem to like is a key element of that. But it's not so much about being in 3D. Like this could almost be like pedals. It's rose or flower. This is still looking very, very human, and I think that might be okay. I mean, there's a lot of things this is clearly like kind of being inspired by. So maybe this is all flower petals, and this character is actually quite small, or maybe the place they live, this stuff is huge, right? Could be an option. Are we expecting any talks or presentations by Naughty Dog focusing on the technical side of their latest release, The Last of Us Part 2? I'm not sure if this question should be made here. I assume you're asking about if there will be an event by Naughty Dog. We have been asking them to do an event, but I know they've been very busy. So maybe at some point we'll get a Naughty Dog event. I'm not so sure about the rest of the body, so probably we'll hide all this for today. Even the hands. Might just do this. Looking at this posture that I don't love from the profile. I was trying not to do something where, you kind of do this from this lost perspective, it's going to feel a lot better. I mean, what we're going to do is we will just go like this, press it up as high as we can. Split this apart. Didn't really do exactly what I wanted. Okay. Clip it. I'm going to duplicate this one. I don't know. I see. Oops. Well, there's something there. I think it needs another pass and probably a fresh set of eyes. I think I'm kind of at the point now with this where it's kind of like, I've got this, right? And I know I would probably want to develop it a little further. I think it does look better with this included, probably somewhere in here. Something down here, so the selection makes more sense. But something like this feels like it's kind of what's working the most. Still a lot of issues that I would want to work out, and I think the face is kind of just a little too generic. Like I want to add something to this that makes it feel. And just changing the nose is definitely doable, right? Like we can change it to make it do something like that. We can, for some reason, just removing a nose or completely changing a nose can give you a lot of freedom. So I think if we even just started with this, I do go back every now and then and look for reference. Like this is kind of a point where I was saying it's like feels like I need something to. I think I've got elements in here that I like, right? But at this point, I'm really just noodling, to be honest. So it's kind of like I need to go back in and find some reference, or I need to find some photos, or I need to a little bit of inspiration, or just something. I need to find something that's going to make this better. Me sitting here and noodling for another hour, 2, 3, 4, 5 hours, I'll probably find something that I like. Right, I'll probably find something that's interesting, or I'll find something that's um, effective, but it might not be as unique. It might not be as cool, right? It might not be, you know, I can sit here and spin and try to find things all day long, but is it going to be what it needs to be? And the answer is I don't know. So that's kind of where it's like, we've kind of got this, what's turned into sort of this Aisha fairy sort of thing. So I would maybe go and look for some inspiration off of that. See how it looks. Or say, I want to pull away from X of this. I'm not liking this about it. How can I change that part? And that's also another thing you can do with reference is to help you move away from something as well. I think the challenging thing, like Pro 4210 just said in Twitch, is it's just kind of fun to do this. So it's hard sometimes to come in and be like, oh, like I want to go look for reference, or I want to do that because I am enjoying just kind of sketching. It's not like I'm especially looking for something specific. From where I was here to where I was here, before we did all that, like I'll save a new version. It'll be easier. That's what we started with before that. So, we did a decent change on the face here, and I think that this overall looks better. This feels just like a human, and I think we're getting into some more interesting things, which is cool. So I like that. Now I might go, like we had talked about some plants. I might go research some plants. I might see maybe what other inspirations we could bring into this. Like for some reason, I was remembering the movie James and the Giant Peach, and like the bugs and the spiders and stuff that were in that. Maybe there's an element of that, but this could be brought in too. So that it could also be bringing in some insect reference, which could be nice, right? We could research a lot of different stuff. There's so many different things you can start looking into. For me, those are the initial things. I could start going aquatic with it and say maybe is there like, if this person lives in an aquatic region, is there something that I could look at that would give me sort of an aquatic feeling? Underwater plants, underwater animals. If I want to be like, oh, there's gills, like that's easy, right? There you go. She lives underwater, but that's not really thoughtful. And right now, I'm kind of at the point where I need to put a little thought into it. I think we're probably going to wrap this up in just a minute. Might jump back into our map. I would love to see how I work through that creative process. Yeah, we could do that in another stream, maybe. I mean, maybe that's what we'll do for the next stream with this character or another character. We've got a bunch that we've kind of stocked up at this point to just kind of go through and see what we could do. Right, I have some ideas like for a game that might fit into. I've wanted to something with spiders for something for a while, so maybe this could be like a spider queen, and we could start getting into like all that, like because there's a lot of really beautiful things that you can do with webs, right? So we could really play up that texture, right? The plants that they're attached to, the structure of that, the repetition of that. Like we could get into some of that. Maybe that's something we do for next stream. Of course, thank you for coming. looks like our bot just posted. If you guys have any questions about any of our Gnomon classes or curriculums or programs or anything like that, feel free to fill out that paper form. You'll get in contact with our admissions team. They can help you with anything regarding any of those things. So feel free to chat with them. They're awesome. So highly recommended. Trying to get a little over detailed, and it's kind of hard to focus my eye around certain parts of this right now because it's kind of doing this effect that's kind of like this. Maybe that's part of what the intent of the character is. So I might need to, when it comes to color, I need to really focus on that. Meaning, like, we'll just do a quick color paint job here. We'll just use black and white. So I'm gonna use like a really dark gray, which is gonna be almost black for you guys. So I'm gonna go like this color here. I want to say, like, let's maybe just fill the whole thing. So I might need to focus or find a way to focus on the face. So this doesn't need to be just in value. It can be, and this is working, right? It's a really effective way to do this. But when you have a lot of stuff going on in your design, you can rely on other elements of design that are not just the lines and the shapes and all that. If you want to push those back a little bit more, you can take them and focus with contrast or color. This way we're getting sort of that Queen Amidala look. To continue that, we could, I'll just fill this with this color. All separate objects now because I thought that would have been a good idea. Do it in a couple different ways, right? It said, plants and flowers, and this is definitely getting into more like of a darker element, and so maybe we bring in there's these brilliant green, maybe brighter greens. Find ways to bring in a little bit of color. First, if we want to go even darker, we just go black, like pure black. In ZBrush, we're using a matte cap turns to absolutely nothing, so it's going to look a little odd, but it is an option that we have. I kind of like starting with this, which is just having, you know, the basics done. What I'll do at this point is pull this all in too. Kind of digging this direction a little. We are using ZBrush today. Sometimes what I'll do is I actually just start treating the model at a certain point. I could add some more subdivisions, but I'll start treating the model almost just as a drawing on it at a certain point. So I'll start sketching in, you know, as you can see here, there's stuff to support some of this, but it's not all there. So I could come in and say, you know, maybe there's like a little thing, right? And just treat it as you're just a white color in there. Right? You can treat it as you're just drawing on it at that point. The first time I saw somebody do that, I was really shocked. I was like, why would you just draw on it? You could just sculpt it. And then it kind of was like, oh, like I see the value in it now because it's a lot faster, a lot faster. This might look like nipples and they're not intending to be. There we go. The eyes are still sculpted. You find that when you make them separate tools, it's easier to get the eyelids right. Yes, that's a thing that I do sometimes as well, is I'll separate them, put some spheres in there, and then wrap the eyelids around them. It's a good way to, like you're saying, to make sure that they're spherical, right? Because the eyes are mostly spherical. And then, especially if you're going to animate it, it's a really good idea to do that early. When I'm doing this kind of stuff, sometimes I find that creates a little bit of a problem for me, where I'm trying to spend so much time, move the eyes, get them set up, and then resculpt the shape. And really what I'm looking for is kind of like the overall graphic look, right? Rather than what I have now. I am using a Wacom Intuos 5. Now, the rest of the body that I have is not going to look as good, right? Because I only focus on the head. So we've talked about this a couple of times, but like the difference between starting in one place and then or working the whole character, right? In this stream, we had about 2 hours, whereas the previous streams we had about 4. What you'll see is, I think that this face is probably more well defined than these ones are. Little priest collar. I think overall design, I think that this one is probably getting a little closer as compared to these ones, which are the ones we did the previous streams, right? You can see just how early these all are. These, we're getting the full character, right? We're getting a full sense of the character. We're getting a general idea of who they are, right? So we've got a whole character. We could print this out if we wanted to. We could, present this to say this is the vibe of the character. Similar with this one, right? We could do the same. This is the vibe of the character that you're getting. Whereas this one, if we're to present this, we have this, which we can present and say, this is kind of what we're thinking for the face, for the general idea of the character, but we're not really able to say, like, here's the whole body right now because I spent a little bit more time and just focused on one direction. Now, what that means I have to do is now I have to take the body and I have to spend all this other time matching what I have, right? Both in a costume element wise, for costumes, for general proportions, for all of that. So this is sort of a, not really a debate, but it's just kind of a difference of style, right? So if you want to be somebody who focuses on a whole character, that's great. I think that there's benefits to that. I wish I did the whole character, so I had this one as is because I'm kind of liking the direction that it's going. But now I have a pretty clear idea of where it should go or where it could go. So, yeah, kind of different ways of working for sure. But yeah, definitely a big difference from what we were doing. I'm going to save this. Like we were kind of at here for a while. So we went from this to this. The sculpts themselves are not vastly different. There's a lot more detail and there's a lot more thought as far as what certain things are doing. But it sort of started to all tie together once the paintwork came in. Got a question from Twitch saying, question about eyes in general. I noticed there are a few artists that rotate the eyes slightly outwards. And I was wondering, is that based on actual anatomy information, or do you think it's just an aesthetic choice? I have seen it done both ways, and I've seen that the eyes are slightly, working in games and stuff. I've seen that most of the time we do angle the eyes very, very slightly outward. And that's because sometimes when they're just looking straight ahead, it looks a little strange, especially in a game or something where something gets close to something crosses their eyes. It'll look a little odd. So I think it's, excuse me. Wow. I think it's based a little bit on anatomy, but mostly on visual. I think I would just paint a little bit of a white glaze. In the chat, we just got posted, but we have an event coming up this Friday. We have a virtual info session with our guest alumni speaker, Omar Oweda, which would be awesome. So please check that out, especially if you're interested in any of the Gnomon programs or classes or anything. If you're just generally interested in Gnomon, check out the info session on Friday. And any of our previous info sessions as well, because there's cool stuff about Gnomon, and there's also really great conversations with guest artists. So check that out. Gnomon alumni Omar Oweda is an awesome character artist who's worked on some cool stuff like Star Citizen. I think he worked on New Worlds, and I think he also worked on Ghost of Tsushima as a character artist and as a lead character artist. So if you're interested in character art like this, if you're interested in working in games or interested in Gnomon, check out the info session this Friday. Definitely will be awesome. Well, I'm going to probably keep this up for a little bit and maybe jump into this for just a short little bit. Was what we were working on before for a complete different change of pace. We were kind of making our maps before, and this is kind of a fun cool down. So getting back into Wonder Draft. Have a fun program. I do. If you guys have any questions while we kind of wrap up the rest of the stream, please feel free to ask them. Questions about process, questions about anything. Happy to help. How do you develop your art style? That's a really good question. It was funny, somebody commented like they could see art styles coming through, and I don't even know necessarily what I would define my art style as. So I think it's just kind of your preferences over time, you know, your shape choices, your shape language, projects you work on. I think it's just something you have to develop over time that's yours, right? It is your style. It's not anybody else's style. So it's kind of important, I think, to know or to think about that in that way of, you know, don't worry about too much of trying to spend too much time to develop it. If you like a certain person's work, then by all means, take that person's work and use it as your example of what you want to paint. You know, like or draw or sculpt or whatever. That's a fine way to do it. You know, if you want to paint like Ryan Meinerding, or if you want to paint like Dave Raposa, or if you want to paint like, if you want to sculpt like whoever, right? Vitali or Raphael Grassetti or whoever. Look at that person's work and see what it is that makes it be that, and then try to emulate it. Am I a game designer? No, I'm not a game designer. I'm just a person making a map right now. We were, in case you're just joining, we were doing some sculpting in ZBrush and kind of made this character and kind of hitting a point where I feel like I'm ready to go get some reference and come back with some more inspiration and thought about where I want to push it. So I'm kind of at a point with this one where I'm a little stuck, but we're running out of time today. So just going back to making a map. interested to see how many artists play role-playing games? I think you'd be shocked. There's quite a bit. The map and the character, what relation between them? Exactly. See, we'd have to figure that out. Knowing that we created a, they could go in one of the 4 general locations, really. Or they could be in a cave, in a mountain. Why is the mountain on the left twitching whenever I paint a tree? That's a good question. This one's twitching. I've seen a bunch of like this one and this one. I think that the program is having alpha sorting, which basically is when 2 things are sitting on top of each other. So it's probably just trying to figure out exactly which one is, you know, on top. Every time I place an object, I think it's saving, or it's trying to decipher like where the object I'm putting is in the stack of things, and so it's constantly doing that. This is called Wonder Draft. We are just wrapping up our arching. We got about 5 minutes left in our stream today. We're just kind of wrapping up, doing some fun little stuff here. For concept art portfolios, should one separate illustration pieces versus actual original concept designs, or what should portfolios contain? Illustration pieces versus original concept designs. That's a tough one. I think if you're doing if you're trying to do concept and you have a lot of illustration, it doesn't necessarily hurt to have that in. And I think they're not always the same job, right? Sometimes they can overlap, right? And that's somewhat common to have that happen. But I think what you're saying is like, how do I might separate them. I would probably separate them. I guess that's the short answer of what I'm getting at, without rambling for too long. Now, this is Wonder Draft we're playing in today.
Sleeping off the side effects again. I double the intake. I like you that way. And it's not the best look to be so thirsty like.
No, we were using ZBrush before for this one.
Seems you lost your train of thought again. Don't call me a mistake. Don't throw me away. I suited you so well. Maybe our time is up, maybe I'm not enough to give him a reason to know when to leave him. Please let me be the promise that you keep.
All right, everybody. That's going to be it for the end of our stream. Thank you, everybody, for joining and tuning in. It's been a fun day. So to kind of recap what we did, we ended up starting on this for a while to kind of warm up, just kind of explore, get into the art headspace. This program was Wonder Draft, if you were wondering. And then we also sculpted for a while and ended up getting to this point with our character. We ended up taking a creative turn and diverging from our original prompt, but kind of finding a direction that we liked and ended up getting to this. So I'm happy with this. And probably for the next stream, what we'll end up doing is I'll be getting some reference off stream. We'll come back and we'll try to get the rest of the character, which is not up to par, to fit this, and we'll integrate some of that in the future stream as well. Cool. I'm going to save this, make sure that this is good to go. I'm going to close it. And I'm going to say, see y'all later, everybody. Thanks again. And like we said earlier, we have an event tomorrow night, or tomorrow afternoon with Omar Aweda. So go ahead and check that out. And if you have any interest in connecting with Gnomon, fill out the form that we just posted in the chat. All right, everyone. See you later. These will be posted on Twitch and YouTube, so they'll be uploaded there for later.